The 1970s introduced iconic technologies like Kodak film, rotary phones, and card catalogs. Once essential parts of everyday life, these items have since become obsolete, replaced by modern innovations. Join us as we explore 25 forgotten relics of the past. Cigarette vending machines. Cigarette vending machines were a common sight in the 1970s, tucked into the corners of smoky bars, diners, and busy public places. For many, these machines evoke memories of nights spent out with friends, where you could quickly grab a pack of cigarettes without needing to leave the venue. Simple to operate, you'd drop in some coins, pull the lever, and out came a pack of smokes. Prices ranged from 50 cents to $1, making them accessible to most. Companies like national vendors played a huge role in their widespread availability. However, nostalgia soon gave way to practicality, as rising cigarette prices, higher taxes, and stricter health regulations, such as age restrictions, began to limit their appeal. Concerns over minors easily accessing cigarettes further hastened their decline. By the late 20th century, cigarette vending machines were nearly obsolete, similar to the jukeboxes that once filled the same spaces with music but slowly disappeared as technology advanced. Jukeboxes. Jukeboxes were once the heart of social spaces in the 1970s. Found in cafes, bars, and diners, these machines allowed people to choose their favorite songs with just a coin. Picture yourself entering a dimly lit diner, ordering a coffee, and hearing the Bee Gees' "Stayin' Alive" play on the jukebox. It was a key part of the 70s vibe. Jukeboxes improved over time, offering better sound quality, stereophonic playback, and the option to queue multiple songs. With tracks costing between 10 and 25 cents, they were affordable entertainment for everyone. But as cassette tapes and CDs made it easier to enjoy personal music collections, jukeboxes began to fade into obscurity. Did you ever dance to a jukebox tune? Let us know in the comments below. Though some jukeboxes still exist today, they are more of a nostalgic relic. Similarly, another fading entertainment tool from that era, the TV Guide, would soon follow the same path. TV Guide. The 1970s marked a golden age for television, and TV Guide was the essential companion for navigating the ever-expanding list of channels. Published weekly, it provided schedules, show summaries, and behind-the-scenes information for all major networks. Families would often gather around the TV, planning their evenings based on what the guide recommended. At just 15 to 25 cents per issue, it was affordable and accessible, making its way into millions of households across America. Beyond the schedules, TV Guide featured celebrity gossip and interviews, giving readers even more reason to pick it up. But as remote controls, on-screen guides, and later digital platforms emerged, the printed TV Guide began to lose relevance. The magazine eventually transitioned to an online format, reflecting the shift in how people consumed media. Before digital screens took over, we also relied on vending machines for another essential read, the daily newspaper. Newspaper vending machines. In the 1970s, newspaper vending machines were a familiar sight on city streets, offering commuters the chance to grab the day's headlines for just a few coins. Picture yourself on a chilly morning, grabbing a fresh newspaper from the machine, ink-stained fingers clutching the pages while sipping a hot cup of coffee. At just 15 cents per paper, these machines made news easily accessible for busy urbanites. They were a crucial part of daily life, providing quick access to local and national news. However, as the internet revolutionized news consumption, the demand for physical newspapers and the machines that dispense them plummeted. Theft and vandalism also contributed to their decline, as people would break into machines to steal copies or money. While they've mostly disappeared today, newspaper vending machines remain a nostalgic symbol of a bygone era. Much like other physical tools of the 70s, such as the Rolodex, they've been replaced by digital counterparts. Rolodex. The Rolodex was an indispensable tool for organizing contacts in the 1970s. This iconic rotary system allowed users to flip through index cards, making it easy to store and quickly retrieve phone numbers, addresses, and business details. Popular with executives, secretaries, and salespeople, the Rolodex was a staple on office desks. Its simple manual design made it incredibly reliable in a time before digital technology. Do you remember flipping through a Rolodex, looking for that important contact? Or maybe you saw one on a desk, filled with cards from important clients and connections. As personal computers and digital contact management systems like Outlook and smartphones gained popularity, the need for Rolodexes dwindled. By the late 20th century, they became obsolete. Today, we swipe through apps instead of spinning through cards. Much like the typewriter or punch clock, the Rolodex remains a symbol of an analog office, replaced by more efficient digital tools. Card catalogs in libraries. Before digital databases, libraries in the 1970s relied on card catalogs to organize and locate books. These large wooden cabinets, filled with neatly typed index cards, were the backbone of library systems. Pulling open a heavy drawer and sifting through cards, searching for the exact book by author or subject, was a familiar ritual for students and researchers alike. Each card provided detailed information, guiding users to the right shelf. It was a methodical and tactile system, with the soft rustling of paper and the smell of ink lingering in the air. As libraries digitized in the 21st century, card catalogs became obsolete, replaced by faster and more convenient online systems. Today, though they've disappeared, seeing a card catalog can still evoke memories of school projects and research papers. Answering machines. The 1970s saw the rise of the answering machine, a revolutionary device that allowed people to record messages from callers when they weren't home. Before voicemail, it was the only way to avoid missing important calls. These machines used tape cassettes to store messages, which could be played back later. Initially a luxury item, answering machines became more common by the late 70s, appearing in homes and offices across the country. Do you remember recording funny or creative messages for your machine? Maybe even leaving prank messages for friends? While answering machines became a staple of communication, their popularity waned in the 1990s with the advent of voicemail and mobile phones, which made managing messages far easier and more efficient. Much like the answering machine revolutionized communication, another device was transforming how we track work hours: the punch clock. Punch clocks. In the 1970s, punch clocks were essential for tracking employees' work hours. Upon arriving or leaving work, employees would line up to punch in by inserting their time card into the machine, which stamped the exact time with a satisfying clunk. The familiar sound of the card stamping and the rustle of workers grabbing their time cards was part of daily life. This method ensured accurate tracking of hours worked, simplifying payroll management for businesses. Though simple and reliable, punch clocks began to decline with the introduction of digital timekeeping systems in the late 20th century. These systems offered greater accuracy, detailed reporting, and automation, replacing the manual process. Today, most businesses use software to track time, making the punch clock a nostalgic relic. Did you ever use a punch clock or work somewhere that had one? While punch clocks were revolutionizing work hours, another device was transforming long-distance communication: the Telex machine. Telex machines. Before the era of email and fax, Telex machines were the go-to method for fast, reliable communication across long distances. In the 1970s, businesses used Telex to send written messages almost instantly via a network of teleprinters. Each machine had a unique identification code, ensuring secure communication for international business correspondence. The rapid click-clack of the teleprinter keys was a familiar sound as messages were typed and sent across the globe. The excitement of receiving a telex from a distant office felt groundbreaking in those days. Have you ever seen a telex machine in action or used one at work? However, as fax machines and later email became widespread, the telex machine quickly became obsolete, replaced by faster and more efficient systems. Telex machines now serve as a nostalgic reminder of early digital communication. Much like the shift in communication technology, tokens, often used for vending machines and games in the 70s, began to disappear as newer payment systems emerged. Tokens. Tokens were a staple of the 1970s, used in everything from vending machines and arcades to public transportation systems. Often made of metal or plastic, tokens were a form of payment that added excitement to simple transactions. Kids would eagerly save up arcade tokens, which were often designed with unique logos, and many would collect them as souvenirs. Do you still have any arcade tokens lying around at home? Tokens were more than just currency. They represented the fun and freedom of visiting arcades or catching a bus after dropping a coin into the machine. However, with the rise of digital payments and more efficient fare systems, the use of tokens began to decline. By the early 2000s, most arcades and transit systems had shifted to card-based or electronic systems, making tokens nearly obsolete. As tokens faded away, so did another essential tool of the 70s: camera film, which captured countless memories in that same era. Camera film. In the 1970s, film photography was the primary way to capture memories. Brands like Kodak and Fuji dominated the market, offering rolls of film that could take 24 or 36 photos. Unlike today's instant digital cameras, you had to wait until the film was developed to see how your pictures turned out. Many recall the anticipation of dropping off film at the local pharmacy or photo shop and eagerly waiting days to pick up prints. The moment of opening that envelope, seeing whether the photos were perfect or blurry, was thrilling. Film was cherished for its rich color and depth, but had drawbacks. Exposure to light could ruin entire rolls. With the rise of digital cameras in the late 1990s, film usage drastically declined. Still, a niche group of enthusiasts continues to shoot on film today. Just as film photography captured memories, phone books helped people keep their social connections intact. Phone books. Before smartphones and digital directories, phone books were an indispensable household tool. The yellow pages listed businesses and services, while the white pages contained personal phone numbers and addresses. In the 1970s, nearly every home had a phone book piled on the kitchen counter or near the phone. People would flip through the thick, bulky pages to find a local business or the number of a friend. Companies cleverly named themselves starting with A to appear at the top of the listings. Do you remember the thrill of prank calling random numbers from the yellow pages? Despite their utility, phone books had their downsides, including their large size and the inconvenience of sifting through hundreds of pages. With the rise of digital directories and smartphones, phone books became obsolete by the early 2000s. While phone books connected people locally, fax machines allowed for quick business communication across long distances. Fax machines. In the 1970s and beyond, fax machines revolutionized business communication, allowing documents to be sent and received over long distances in minutes, an enormous improvement over traditional mail. These bulky machines became a staple in offices, handling 5 to 6 pages per fax. Who remembers the frustration of waiting for an important fax, only for the paper to jam at the last second? Despite their occasional glitches, fax machines remained crucial until email became dominant in the 1990s. Do you still use a fax machine at work? Today, fax machines are largely obsolete but still survive in industries like healthcare and law, where sending physical documents is required. Their distinct beep and whir sounds evoke nostalgia for an era of early digital communication. Just as fax machines have faded, another once ubiquitous office tool, carbon paper, also saw a decline as newer technologies replaced manual methods of copying. Carbon paper. Before photocopiers and scanners, carbon paper was the go-to method for making multiple copies of documents. To use it, you'd sandwich the carbon paper between 2 sheets of regular paper, pressing hard to create a copy as you wrote or typed. The distinct smell of the carbon ink and the crinkly feel of the paper evoke memories of office work in the 1970s. However, carbon paper had its frustrations. If the original document was smudged, so was the copy, and users often ended up with ink-stained fingers. Despite these quirks, it was widely used for contracts, invoices, and forms. As photocopying and scanning technology advanced in the 1980s and 90s, carbon paper quickly declined in use. Do you remember using carbon paper in school or work? Though rare today, it still exists in niche industries. Just as carbon paper faded, so too did other 1970s staples like boomboxes, which dominated the portable music scene. Boomboxes. Boomboxes, also known as ghetto blasters, were a defining part of 1970s and 80s culture. These portable music systems, with their massive speakers and cassette players, allowed people to bring their music everywhere, from the beach to street corners. Imagine walking down the street with a boombox on your shoulder, blasting tunes for everyone to hear. Many boomboxes also featured AM/FM radios, making them versatile for music lovers. However, their bulky size and the emergence of more compact devices like Walkmans and MP3 players led to their decline in the 1990s. Do you still have a boombox stashed away in your attic? Today, they are seen as nostalgic symbols of a bygone era. As portable music evolved, so did other forms of communication technology, such as payphones, which defined public spaces in the 1970s. Payphones. In the 1970s, payphones were a lifeline for making calls on the go. These coin-operated booths could be found on nearly every street corner, in gas stations, and at transportation hubs. For people without home phones, payphones were a convenient way to stay connected. Many would carry a few extra coins in their pockets just in case they needed to make a quick call while out. Calls typically cost 10 to 25 cents, but some crafty individuals figured out tricks with the coin return button to make free calls. As mobile phones gained popularity in the late 1990s and early 2000s, the need for payphones rapidly declined. Do you remember the last time you used a payphone or saw one? By the 2010s, most payphones had vanished, though a few still remain in remote areas. While payphones once connected us through voice, typewriters were busy turning thoughts into printed words. Typewriters. The typewriter was an indispensable tool for writers, journalists, and office workers in the 1970s. Its mechanical keys and ribbon ink system allowed users to create neatly typed documents, letters, and manuscripts. Many fondly recall the tactile feel of pressing the keys and hearing the rhythmic click-clack as the machine typed away. And who could forget the satisfying ding at the end of each line, signaling it was time to start a new one? Typewriters, especially portable models, were a popular gift for students heading off to college. However, the arrival of personal computers and word processors in the 1980s led to the rapid decline of typewriters. Do you still own or use a typewriter for fun or nostalgia? Despite their obsolescence, they remain iconic, with some enthusiasts continuing to enjoy the tactile experience of using vintage machines. While typewriters were the tool for words, punch cards were the key to early data processing. Punch cards. Punch cards were a crucial part of early computing in the 1970s, allowing businesses and universities to automate data processing tasks. Each card was punched with a series of holes representing data, which was fed into computers for large-scale operations. However, using punch cards could be labor-intensive. Students and office workers often found themselves sorting through stacks of them, and one wrong punch could cause an entire program to fail. Do you remember the frustration of working with punch cards, especially during early computing jobs or university projects? As more sophisticated storage methods like magnetic tapes and floppy disks emerged in the late 1970s and 1980s, punch cards quickly became obsolete. Just like punch cards faded from data processing, manual car windows gave way to more convenient electric alternatives. Manual car windows. Manual car windows, often called crank windows, were the standard feature in most vehicles during the 1970s. To roll the windows up or down, passengers had to turn a small crank handle on the door. Though simple and reliable, manual windows could be a workout on long road trips. Many still fondly remember the experience of winding the crank to feel the breeze on a summer drive. However, as electric windows became more common in the late 1980s, manual windows started disappearing from most car models. Do you prefer the reliability of manual windows or the convenience of electric ones? Today, manual windows are rare, but their simplicity and durability are missed by some. 8-track tapes. Before cassette tapes and CDs, 8-track tapes were the go-to format for listening to music in the 1970s, particularly in cars. The large cartridges allowed for continuous playback without the need to rewind, making them convenient for long drives. Many music lovers fondly remember the satisfying click as the tracks changed automatically. However, the tapes were bulky and didn't offer the best sound quality. With the introduction of more compact cassette tapes in the late 1970s, 8-tracks started to lose popularity. Cassette tapes were smaller, offered higher quality audio, and allowed users to easily rewind or fast forward to their favorite songs. Today, 8-tracks are mostly found in thrift stores or among collectors who treasure them as a piece of music history. While they may seem cumbersome by modern standards, their nostalgia still resonates with those who remember them. As 8-tracks faded, newer, more versatile formats took their place in the music world. Slide projectors. Slide projectors were a staple of the 1970s for displaying photos at family gatherings, educational presentations, or even business meetings. They worked by projecting small photographic slides onto a screen or wall in a darkened room. Families would often gather around to view vacation photos, advancing the slides with a click of the projector. Schools used them for educational purposes, displaying diagrams or historical images. However, slide projectors had their limitations. Setting them up was cumbersome, and the slides could easily be scratched or lost. With the advent of digital projectors and PowerPoint presentations in the late 1990s, slide projectors became obsolete. These new technologies allowed for easier setup, better image quality, and the ability to incorporate text, video, and animations into presentations. Though slide projectors are now relics, they hold a nostalgic place in the memories of those who experienced them firsthand, whether in classrooms or at family gatherings. Cassette recorders. Portable cassette recorders were essential tools in the 1970s for journalists, students, and anyone who needed to capture audio on the go. Equipped with built-in microphones, these devices allowed users to record interviews, lectures, and personal notes with the press of a button. Cassettes could hold up to 60 or 90 minutes of audio, and users could easily rewind or fast-forward to find the exact part they wanted to listen to. Many remember the satisfying click when inserting a cassette tape into the recorder. However, with the rise of smartphones and digital voice recorders in the 2000s, cassette recorders quickly became outdated. Digital devices offered clearer sound, longer recording times, and the ability to store thousands of hours of audio on small memory cards. While some cassette recorders can still be found in vintage shops or used by audio enthusiasts, they are largely a thing of the past, replaced by more advanced technology. CRT televisions. In the 1970s, cathode ray tube (CRT) televisions were the heart of every living room. These boxy, heavy sets came with curved screens and limited picture quality by today's standards, but they were the cutting-edge technology of their time. Many people remember adjusting the rabbit ear antennas to get a clearer picture, or the satisfying clunk of turning the dial to change channels. As TV technology advanced in the 1990s and 2000s, flat-screen LCD and plasma televisions took over. These newer TVs offered clearer, sharper images, larger screen sizes, and were much lighter and more space-efficient than their CRT predecessors. Today, CRT televisions are rarely seen outside of thrift stores or retro gaming setups. Their bulkiness and outdated technology make them obsolete in an era dominated by sleek, high-definition, and smart TVs. Yet, for many, CRT TVs bring back memories of simpler times, Saturday morning cartoons, and family movie nights. Film strips for classroom learning. In the 1970s, film strips were a key part of classroom learning. Teachers used these strips, which contained individual frames of information or images, to teach subjects like history, science, or literature. A projector would display each frame on a screen, and students would watch and listen to a corresponding audio narration, typically played from a record or cassette tape. The click of the projector advancing the film strip was a familiar sound in many classrooms. However, film strips were not without their drawbacks. Projectors were prone to breakdowns, and the strips themselves could get damaged or lost. By the late 1990s, with the rise of video technology and eventually digital media, film strips fell out of use. Educational videos, DVDs, and interactive software replaced the slower, more cumbersome film strip method. Though obsolete, film strips hold a place in the memories of those who sat in dimly lit classrooms, absorbing knowledge one frame at a time. Thanks for joining us on this nostalgic journey. Which obsolete item was your favorite? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more trips down memory lane.